This episode of The Young Turks is brought to you by Netflix. Go to netflix.com/TYT for an awesome free trial membership.
Senator Mike Lee, he is a Republican from Utah, just recently said that he does not feel that our child labor laws, our federal child labor laws, are constitutional. So I want to show you guys the video and explain why he thinks this.
Shortly after the turn of the last century, there was a problem with a lot of people using children as workers in their factories. It was a barbaric practice. It was awful. They were sweatshops. These children who should have been in schools were working very long shifts, 10, 12, 14-hour days in factories. Congress decided it wanted to prohibit that practice, so it passed a law, no more child labor. That, as reprehensible as child labor is, as much as it ought to be abandoned, that's something that has to be done by state legislators, not by members of Congress. Why? Well, because labor and manufacturing, as the Supreme Court explained, are activities that take place in one state at one time. They are by their very nature local activities. And while they may have some commercial aspects to them, they are not themselves interstate commercial transactions. So Congress enacted this law based on the idea that because labor and manufacturing are commercial activities, because Congress has the power to regulate interstate commerce, that must be enough to give them this power. The Supreme Court said no. The fact that it's commercial isn't enough. It's got to be interstate and commercial. This is local. So the law's no good. It's unconstitutional. As laudable as its objectives may be, the law is no good.
All right, the law is no good, so let's ignore child labor laws and let's start hiring 5-year-olds to do hard labor.
Well, first of all, they're expendable, so they're good for the risky jobs. But first of all, it's not local. There are so many companies in this country that are interstate, and what those children would be manufacturing would be sold from state to state. So it's absolutely ridiculous to say that any form of commerce is strictly local. But you know what is local? Sex. Mm-hmm. Sex is always local. Sex is just 2 or maybe 3 or 4, but typically 2 people in one state at one time doing one thing. Yet I'll bet Mike Lee is all for federal laws that regulate sexual behavior. So isn't it funny that when it comes to child labor, he thinks it should be left alone because it's a local matter, but when it comes to sex that really is local, if you're doing it right, then he would probably want the federal government to regulate it. So he's got another agenda, obviously.
Right.
He's wrong because everything that's manufactured in a business can be sold on an interstate basis. And what else is there to say? I mean, he is saying he thinks child labor is terrible, but it's funny, too, because if you listen to him, what he was saying was, they had to work 12 or 13-hour shifts. So he's basically saying as long as the kids don't have to work more than 8 or 9 hours, then it's probably okay, right? So what do you think? I don't know. He's crazy.
Yeah, I think he's crazy too. And, under the Constitution, Congress is able, as you mentioned, to basically regulate commerce. And since Congress is able to regulate commerce, I think child labor falls under that umbrella. So, his whole argument really didn't make any sense. But, when I brought this story up to JR, we were talking about how some Republicans, they want to revert back to the olden days. And it's like they miss all of the terrible things that happened in history.
Get a load of Netflix. They deliver the movie to your house, no late charges, free shipping.
You can watch thousands of movies or TV shows straight on your PC or on your television through a gaming console.
Netflix.com/TYT, free trial membership. You get Netflix all over you.